you ask me, rap is underestimated. Rap has a lot of wordplay that involves metaphors and imagery. I enjoy listening to rap music because it is a unique music genre. When I say that to someone else, 9 times out of 10, I will be told that a rapper they enjoy is Eminem. Being one of the youngest in my family, I can confirm that I always have to watch what the rest of the family wants. My cousins and their friends would watch Eminem when he was on MTV in the living room when they had the house to themselves. Because of that, Eminem has always been on my radar. I know some of my buddies would like for me to make a video about Eminem. Since Eminem is a high profile celebrity, I was unsure if I could bring something new to the table, except for this part, because this was one of those moments when I learned not to judge a book by its cover. A few years ago, I watched 8 Mile. The best way I can describe the movie is it is about B Rabbit, an upcoming rapper who intends to use his craft to escape the cycle of poverty. The main conflict is to enhance his skills so that he does not choke or freeze up during a rap battle. During the movie, we see how much B Rabbit is at a disadvantage due to his lower class status, which can be just as big of a social issue as race is. While B Rabbit has a lot of similarities to Eminem, I do not believe B Rabbit is a fictionalized version of Eminem like Slim Shady. Remember that now. 8 Mile has a gritty, realistic urban feel with little fantasy or cartoonish elements. This is why I would say that B Rabbit is more likely a fictionalized version of a peer or acquaintance than some strange autobiographical metaphor of Eminem's world. I think it is best to see 8 Mile blind like I did. Back when I was skeptical of Eminem, I found myself enjoying 8 Mile a lot. 8 Mile is genuinely one of the most original, well-made movies that could have existed. Most of the time, I have to do plenty of research on a topic. I did my best to research in preparation for this analysis. But the truth is, I could barely find documented evidence to back up any specific claims. Most of them are anecdotal. I did read the authorized biographies, but it is obvious that Eminem does not like to talk about himself very much. It is evident that he keeps the person and the persona separate in his life, so I will do my best to respect that. To summarize, the most we will know about Eminem is through his art. In the past, I had made some jokes about Eminem's popularity, something like this. Do you know that Eminem wasn't the first white rapper? The last guy was Vanilla Ice. Vanilla Ice! Do you blame Eminem for going extra back then? Eminem won't be the last white rapper either. Sometimes he does go overboard with his lyrical raps. There have been other rappers ever since the late 90s, but they don't measure up to him. Now, as amusing as it is when these new school white rappers annoy the living daylights out of Eminem, he is better than all of them combined, if I have to be real. I would rather listen to Eminem than Iggy Azalea. We may hardly get another rapper like Eminem again. Eminem is what some would categorize as a mainstream, if not controversial rapper. They may cite Eminem as proof of someone's limited interests. Eminem released his 12th album, The Death of Slim Shady, this year. This was a surprise to a lot of people, including me. Then I found out The Death of Slim Shady is a concept album and recommended that we listen to the songs in order. I got carried away. I listened to every Eminem album because I got tired of listening to Taylor Swift. Can you listen to The Death of Slim Shady on its own? Yes. Do you have to listen to them in order? Yes, to fully understand. Do you need to listen to the rest of his music to enjoy The Death of Slim Shady? It helps if you want to get the full experience. To summarize The Death of Slim Shady, Slim Shady and Eminem have a confrontation, and there are critiques about artistry. Eminem kills off Slim Shady, and the rest of the album is a self-reflection of his career and the current state that he is in today. Now, that is just an interpretation on the surface based on listening to the album at face value. But since I spend the majority of my academic career analyzing and critiquing written works of art, I also figured out that there has to be more than meets the eye. The biggest aspect I can say about the death of Slim Shady is that Eminem displays a great amount of self-awareness in the album. While Eminem has shown self-awareness in his previous albums, he makes it evident that he has a deep understanding of his surroundings. Try not to go too spoiler heavy, so you guys can also enjoy experience similar like I did. If there is something to keep in mind when you listen to his music, it is that not every song is in the same voice. I don't mean voice in the literal sense. While it is obviously performed by one rapper, each rap is uttered by a different character. Sometimes, it can get confusing if you stop paying attention for a second. If you do not pay attention full blown, it is easy to miss that there are 3 different versions of Eminem talking to the listener. Instead of going into depth and unintentionally turning this into an armchair session, I will describe the experience of listening to his music by quoting straight from the horse's mouth. This music is made by Slim Shady from the mind of Marshall Mathers as seen from Eminem's point of view. Get it? After a deep dive into your albums in the past few months, now I do. If I had to describe this journey in other words, Marshall is the creator of Eminem and Slim Shady. Eminem represents the best side of himself, while Slim Shady represents the worst side of himself. Eminem and Slim Shady help their creator storytell the point that the creator wants to get across to the listeners. And take my word for it when I say that the man has a lot to say coming from his mind. Just looking at his lyric sheet shows me that he has lungs of steel. No wonder Eminem ended up as my high school assignment. How did I get to this point in my life where there is Marvel-level lore in rap? But I digress. Slim Shady is Eminem's most popular persona. Slim Shady is your average, everyday edgelord. Since Eminem is a reclusive artist, it is easy to mistake Slim Shady as the actual rapper if you are a casual listener. Slim Shady is the foil to Eminem. The first half of the album is Slim Shady causing mayhem for the evils. He keeps Eminem hostage and intends to bait Gen Z, or probably the millennials too, to cancel their career. Just the typical Slim Shady shenanigans. Eventually, Eminem and Slim Shady engage in a confrontation which escalates into someone's death. The death of Slim Shady. Spoiler alert! Better late than never. Based on the exchanges they have with each other, this may be the closest we will ever gain access into the inner workings of Eminem's creative process. If my interpretation is correct, Slim Shady was created to help Eminem overcome his struggles. But relying on Slim as a coping mechanism ended up doing more harm than good to his reputation and well-being in the long run. I wondered for the longest time who Slim Shady was supposed to be a representation of. After hearing how Slim Shady says the harshest words to Eminem, I don't think any amount of backlash from you, me, the critics, and probably his dog if he had one, from anyone else, summarize up, will ever compare to how words can affect him. I will go out on a limb that Slim Shady represents Eminem's biggest bully, and we don't truly faze him no matter how harsh we can be. I will emphasize right now that my analysis is only speculation based on a fictional piece of media and that I may or may not be entirely correct. I also want to emphasize that I am not trying to psychoanalyze the creator and try to discover a cure for the person. Not everything has to be a case study and shouldn't be treated as such. Otherwise, art will no longer be enjoyable if everything has to be dissected and studied to shreds. But if there is something that I am sure about, it is that the theme of the album is Eminem's own way of burying the past. Since the original release of the album has 19 songs, I thought that it was interesting that at the end of the first act is set at the 13th song. I originally wanted to release my discussion of the death of Slim Shady in mid-October, but the longer I was in the process of writing this, the more details I noticed that it made me feel like I was losing my mind. I might discover more Easter eggs that after I finish this analysis, but if I had not given myself more time to organize my thoughts, I wouldn't have discovered the symbolism that has been right in front of me the whole time. The number 13 is usually associated with a superstition that symbolizes bad luck. And that means, I realize it clicked for me, that when Eminem kills Slim Shady, we are invited to witness the end of a self-destructive cycle. The second half is where things take an emotional turn. The best way I can describe the second half is a bucket list experience. A bucket list is a term that is used to describe what someone wants to accomplish in their life while they still can, before time runs out. When someone completes one of the goals, you may hear them say they crossed something off of their bucket list. The first goal I can determine Eminem has is to inspire younger generations to strive to better themselves, which is why in one of the songs, Big Sean and Baby Tron are given a moment to shine, since all of them have grown up in Detroit. The other but more important goal is to give a proper goodbye to his children, to help them emotionally prepare for when the time comes. His children have been a huge inspiration in his music, and had said in Hot Boxing with Mike Tyson that being the father that he never had the privilege of having is his greatest accomplishment in life. Eminem wanted to give closure to Haley and, of course, the rest of the children while he still could, and was able to help others get closure that they couldn't get from their fathers. Then we get to the final song. Before hearing the last song, my stubborn self was still skeptical about whether Eminem was deemed worthy of his merits. The final song is not only seeking atonement, but the narrator is Eminem from an alternative universe. This is an Eminem who failed his battle with addiction and expresses remorse for slipping away from his family because of it. The line, "It's like I'm stuck in an alternative reality," all but confirms my suspicions that this is the case. It is challenging to write another version of yourself and make it believable. This is when I finally had to swallow my pride, admit I was wrong, and admit that Eminem is a talented artist who gained his platform purely out of his own capabilities. There is no denying that the unbelievable has come true, and we have been around to witness it. That Eminem has beaten the odds. For a great experience, the ending has to come to a satisfactory conclusion. I believe that the way to do that is to save the best for last, just like Eminem decided to do. There is something about Eminem that explains a lot about his rap style. Eminem wanted to be a huge comic book artist. Probably a top tier, like level of Stan Lee. because Eminem, who knew, right? Turns out Eminem is a huge fan of comics. That is one thing that will never change about him. There is no doubt that comics are a huge influence on his art. Some factors that can determine his style shares in common with comics are outlandish plots, over the top characters, bold dialogue, heavy usage of onomatopoeia, and vividly detailed imagery. Perhaps this type of influence is what makes him stand out from the rest of the rappers then and now. You can take the rapper away from his comic, but you can't take the comic away from the rapper. Before I attempted to understand Eminem, I was often puzzled at what made him so impactful to so many people that I had encountered. Now I have my answer to that cold case of what could be just my own very personal mystery. Eminem is a symbol of hope. He inspires those who grew up in a poor upbringing, those who lack a father figure, those who struggle and overcame addiction, and especially those who are deemed a freak for being a geek. Eminem is proof that not everything is or has to be black or white. And maybe that was his goal all along when he actually became a rapper, is that we don't have to categorize ourselves just by the color of our skin or our hobbies and our interests. And maybe that was something I was too young to understand before. But, I have to respect that he did take a risk and that he just addressed everything that has came in his 20-year career and has shown that he does have a sense of humor and that he can laugh at himself every once in a while, because who knew? Even Eminem is his own biggest bully, and there's nothing that we can do. So, I guess it's almost time, right? And who knew? I never thought that it would take me this long to finally acknowledge that Eminem is deemed worthy, just like everyone else is. Whether you love him or hate him, there is a fact for sure that I know now, that Eminem brings unity in ways that prior to his career were unimaginable.